All right, this week I'm going to actually talk about the rational recovery. It's yet another alternative to AA, so that way people have more options. So that way they don't have to get in their head that the religion is the one and only way to recover from your substance abuse. So rational recovery is one of those organizations that was started back in '68. If I remember reading correctly the article and everything, I don't have it pulled up, but I do have a couple links that I'll be sharing that actually gives the information and everything so people can check it out like usual. So the whole idea with the rational recovery is that it actually has a 5 recovery skills. So it's similar to a smart recovery that has the 4 points and everything. So the some of the stuff that the recovery skills encompass are communication and interpersonal skills. So for instance, the best example with that would be getting into actually getting professional help. Whereas you're not seeing that in AA, where you don't there's no professional help whatsoever in the AA meetings whatsoever. So using communication and interpersonal skills in a professional setting, you would go see a psychologist, a counselor, or a therapist and everything, and actually do sessions. Now you could do CBT sessions, cognitive behavioral therapy, to do the back and forth and get into the root causes of what made you go down that road of substance abuse and everything. So yeah, using the communication skills, pretty much are talking about it, and with one-on-one session with a therapist, or you use interpersonal skills to find out from other people, whether you go to the library and work with the librarians, oh hey, look, I'm looking for information, or you go to your friend circles or your families and members, and you use your interpersonal skills, hey, look, I've got this problem, I got a substance abuse problem, I need help with it and everything. How do I go about it? So this is where the communication and interpersonal skills come in. So it's creative and critical thinking is another one of the points that's encompassed in that. So critical thinking, you start thinking logically, you start detaching yourself from your emotions and be okay, well, what made me emotionally dependent on my substance of choice and everything. So you start trying to detach yourself and give yourself a bird's eye view type of deal, and start getting in a sense creative ways of okay, well, tying into the last point, working with professionals and stuff, you can start finding creative ways, okay, the classical oh, I used to go from home from work down this road and everything. I'd always pass by a liquor store, and of course I would always have to stop and everything. So there is an alternative road that I can go down. It takes me a few extra minutes to get home, but I don't go by that liquor store, so I'm not stopping and everything. So you find creative ways to get away from the whatever would trigger you to go use your substance and everything. The liquor store example I just used, driving a different way home so you don't pass by it and everything. So that's a creative and critical thinking point that's tied into that, and which ties into the problem solving and effective decision making. So you notice a problem, okay, so how exact same thing with problem solving when you're at work or something, a new project is just dumped on you by your boss and everything. So now you have a slew of new problems that you have to sit here and figure out how to get this new project up and running, and get this implemented so it can be productive and everything. So you then start making effective decision making, okay, well, here's this project, here's 3 solutions, let me sit there and make effective decision making by gathering all the information I can get, and see which of these 3 decisions would be the best to go forward with. And another point of these 5 recovery skills that they were talking about is self-awareness, being self-aware, using that driving by the liquor store analogy again, oh hey, being self-aware, I know if I drive by that liquor store, I know I'm going to go in and get a pint of vodka, and then it's going to send me down a downward spiral of drinking. Or if I know if I go this way, I'm going to go by the crack house, and I'm going to pick up myself up some drugs and everything, and that's no good. So like being self-aware of like your decisions and like kind of like your habits and everything, because like a lot of times like we put stuff on like on autopilot because we're creatures of habit and everything. So like we got in a sense getting back to getting yourself detached and kind of trying to get yourself like a bird's eye view of like your habits and behaviors and stuff, so you can become self-aware. Like, oh hey, here's like what I've noticed, like I go this way, I always drive by the liquor store, and I always pick up like my like drink of choice or whatever. Well, hey, look, now that I'm self-aware that I'm automatically doing it, because hey, that's the quickest way home. I'll go this way instead. It takes like an extra 2 or 3 minutes to get home, but I'm not passing by that liquor store. So like becoming self-aware is another part of the 5 points of skills that they get into in this rational recovery. So like another thing is they get into like assertiveness and self-control. So like being like not necessarily like with assertive, not necessarily being like a bully, like asserting yourself, like the classic going up Friday going to happy hour analogy that I like to use. Like your coworker, like, oh come on, let's go. Like you don't sit there and be a bully, be a jackass to him. Like, oh fuck you, I'm not going. Like you be self-assertive. Be like, look, I'm going to the gym instead. Like being self-assertive in the sense like instead of having that fuck you attitude, be no, look, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm trying to accomplish and everything. Being assertive in like a positive way, not a negative way, and having self-control. Like when you do find yourself in situations like that, maybe you go into like a convenience store and you see beer, have like self-control, like, okay, well, I know I need to stay away from that aisle, so I'll go this over into this section where I know I get like some milk and everything, or like or I go over here and like, or maybe even going to like having self-control to go to like a different convenience store that you would go to maybe get your bread and milk and stuff and everything. So like having self-control to be able to switch it up and be able to like control yourself in a rare situation that like you become cognizant of the fact like, oh hey, look, like I'm in a convenience store, they're selling alcohol, I need to have like a self-control, like kind of like a out of mind, out of body, I don't see it and I don't see it and everything type of deal. And like one of the last things is building up resilience and the ability to cope. So like that's probably like the ability to cope is probably like one of the big things. Is like a lot of times like people like myself included like would use substances, alcohol, drugs or whatever, to kind of cope with the stress of life and everything. So get building up resilience, you then therefore try and get into other things that let you cope and everything. So instead of going to the liquor store, the analogy that I'm kind of reiterating over in this video, instead of going to the liquor store to cope with like a stressful week, Friday night, or like the Friday happy hour, Friday night happy hour analogy, instead of going there, you use gym as a coping mechanism. Like, oh hey, look, I just had a stressful week. I'm going to go like I got this heavy bag at the gym. I'm just going to do like a few rounds of like boxing on that heavy bag and everything. Take out my frustrations on that instead of going to the liquor store and picking up my drink and everything. So like you're in a sense like replacing a negative coping mechanism with a positive coping mechanism and everything. So like that's like one of the last points that they pretty much make and everything. So like some of the stats that like they came across like that they were given in like one of the other articles, and like the 2 articles I actually have are like .gov articles. So like you know they're like decent sources. So like I've said before, like you want to go for like a .gov or .edu, which is usually like the top of the list when it comes to like websites and everything. So like some of the stats they gave with like when it came to rational recovery, like something like 38% were like sober when they were first coming into their first meeting. Something like 73% were sober after 3 months upon coming in, and they had like a 58% that reported. Now all of this is self-reported, so 58% reported like at least like 6 months and everything. So like you compared that to like the one study that was done with AA, which had like a 5% like a success rate. It was done by George Valiant through Harvard, and so like and of course he was like, oh look, AA works, it has a 5% success rate, let's keep sending people there. Well, like just based on like these like small like data points, 58% after 6 months and like a 5% success rate with AA, you're looking at like 11-12 times better success rate and everything. So like now of course this is just one data point, and like it's much more nuanced than that and everything, so you kind of have to take a step back and be like, okay, so this is just one point, let me research it further and everything. So this is just like a point that one point that I make in the showcase, that like you need to get back to my getting religion out of mental health video. You kind of need to get out of that, and like if you're looking at rational recovery is based in science and psychology, just like smart recovery, just like reach out recovery, and the video I did on the Phoenix recovery program, they're all based in science and psychology. So you're like looking at like a lot better success rate with science and psychology over religion. So these are at least in my opinion, definitely a lot better alternatives, and should be the primary. They should be the primary source for recovery, instead of relying on the 1930s religion that we still do, and like haven't furnished very little to no success even in 21st century America.